from the point of view of how safe it is to fly over war zones, the straight answer is, in most cases, it is actually safe. It's all a question of whether or not the combatants have weapons capable of taking out aircraft 6 miles up, above 30,000 feet. And generally, that is not a risk to aviation. But in the Ukrainian case, I think that it was quite clear from a few days earlier that the combatants now had weapons capable of taking out aircraft at high altitude, and the airspace should have been closed in that case. OK,
so you're blaming Ukrainian authorities. They should have closed this airspace.
Well, it's not really for me to apportion blame, but I would say, well, because I'm not an authority, I'm not a government, but in my opinion, and I have said this before, the Ukrainians are clearly responsible for their own airspace. I'm not saying they shot the aircraft down, because I don't believe that was the case. But they knew of the dangers more than anyone else, and they should have closed that airspace.
Let's have a look at a map of numerous countries which are deemed dangerous in the world. I believe that Ukraine, we've been talking about, of course, Iraq and Libya are on there. Are these no-go areas, do you think, for the majority of the commercial airliners who are flying at the moment?
Well,
or should they be?
Well, we've spoken about Ukraine, and right now the airspace is closed to civil aviation.
Would you fly over them as a first officer?
Well, you see, as an airline pilot, you are dependent on the information you're given, and that's in notices to airmen and NOTAMs, which you read before you go. And the airlines generally will provide a flight plan which takes you around danger areas and restricted areas. But you are very much relying on the information that is fed into the system through ICAO and on advice given from the British government. Pilots aren't really in a position to make that decision.
And I suppose that's what the Foreign Office is there for. Lots of messages coming in from our viewers. Sammy Anderson says sometimes you never know the actual flight route until you're in the air. Andy Weaver says, I'm betting a large number of people won't have a clue where some of these countries are, so be entirely oblivious to where they're flying over. And that's right, isn't it? You're enjoying a gin and tonic, is sitting back enjoying the flight. You haven't got a clue that you're flying over somewhere like
absolutely. And in many cases, the passengers, customers have no idea what aircraft they're flying in. They certainly won't know the route. But once the route is put on a TV screen, they will at that point know the route.